So The Ultimate Fighter Season 31 Episode 2 just wrapped up, and I'm going to talk about the episode as a whole. I'm going to talk about the fighters, I'm going to talk about the fights. So if you haven't seen the episode, I understand that it's airing like a day late for a lot of people. Don't watch this video because I will spoil the fight, I will spoil the result, and I will talk about what happens in the episode. So this will be a review with spoilers if you haven't seen it already. But overall, I like the episode. I thought it was a better episode than episode number 1. But I feel like a lot of people are enjoying TUF 31 less than me. I mean, maybe I'm just one of those people. I love The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, there's 31 seasons of it. I can happily say I have seen all 30 seasons prior to this one. Now, I did skip TUF 30 because I wasn't really that keen on watching it, but I rewatched it before this to get hyped for TUF 31. I'm enjoying this season. I think this is one of the better seasons they've done recently, and it mainly is just because of the presence of Conor McGregor. Like, Conor McGregor really brings like good vibes. He's a funny guy. He's definitely very eccentric, passionate about the sport. He's Conor McGregor. He's Conor McGregor, you know what I mean? But as for this episode, they started out, and I was like, man, we're going to get 2 fights this episode, because they started out with Timur Valiev and Trevor Wells getting ready to fight each other, and I was like, yes, this is going to be so good. And then it turns out that Trevor Wells can't fight, and they just delayed it, and I'm like, oh, like, it's a bit lame, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, okay, so we only got 1 fight this episode. I would love 2 fights per episode, but if they can kind of fill things in with like coaches' challenges and stuff that makes things interesting, I think that could be something that they can get away with doing 1 fight. But now to spoil the fight was Cody Gibson versus Mando Gutierrez, and Cody Gibson won by first round knockout by like a switch flying knee. He like threw up the left knee, and then Mando kind of defended the left part of the knee, I guess, in a way. He kind of fell for it, and then Gibson threw up the right knee, so he kind of threw up like this. Mando got baited by the left, got hit by the right, knocked him out after a bit of ground and pound. Honestly, probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from Cody Gibson recently. Like, Cody Gibson, as you guys know, maybe when he was more in his prime, had better performances than that. But I'm telling you guys, man, from someone that has watched a lot of his most recent fights, most notably his fights for XMMA, because I do love XMMA as a promotion, that was one of the best performances from Cody Gibson I've ever seen. And it does kind of bring me on to the fact that I do believe Michael Chandler is the better coach out of him and Conor McGregor. Like, I feel like, I know it's like, oh, they're 2-0, so it's kind of obvious that, you know, Chandler's probably the better coach. But it's not only that. It's just the way that Michael Chandler is kind of treating the fighters and treating the show in general. Because for Michael Chandler, this is like everything to Michael Chandler, right? He's well invested into this. Like, he's at the weigh-ins. Conor McGregor's missed the weigh-ins. He's with his fighters. He's kind of connecting with his fighters. And Conor McGregor's like Conor McGregor. Like, he seems like he's a little bit distant. Yeah, he's getting in there in the training and stuff like that. But it almost feels like Michael Chandler's kind of like bringing the best out of his fighters. And I'm telling you, he brought the best out of Cody Gibson. That genuinely was a fantastic performance from Cody Gibson. And going into the fight, I thought that Mando Gutierrez was going to beat Cody Gibson. I did. I thought that Mando Gutierrez was going to put the wrestling shoes on. He kind of did. He kind of didn't. And Gibson just kind of picked him apart from range, where it landed a lot of really good shots. Mando hit a moment every now and then, but it's kind of all Cody Gibson, dude. It was a really good performance from him. Very sad for Mando Gutierrez, because Mando Gutierrez is like the up-and-coming guy, 26-year-old. This is a big moment for him. You know, he gave Conor McGregor a haircut, you know what I mean? Like, it is a shame for Mando to get KO'd like that, but he didn't have that bad of a performance. He's not a striker. He's a grappler, and this is why I actually picked him to lose against Raul Rosas Jr. He's not a striker, like, at all, and he's a grappler. And he's not as good at grappling as Raul Rosas Jr., which is why I picked Raul Rosas Jr. to win that fight. But I also kind of knew that he probably lost the fight, because Tapology itself spoiled it, because he has a fight booked in a grappling tournament in July. And I was like, man, like, if Mando Gutierrez is winning the show and going to be on the Ultimate Fighter finals later this year, there's no way that he's going to have a grappling fight booked in July, just in case he gets injured or something like that. So, yeah, that was interesting, but very happy for Cody Gibson. And I am going to talk about the coaching of Michael Chandler a little bit more. So if you don't really want to hear me just talking about the coaching, maybe skip forward a little bit. But Michael Chandler is a fantastic coach. I don't know if this guy's coached in the past. I'm sure he probably is kind of seen as like a leader at his gym, and he probably does corner fighters. He probably does have a little bit of a coaching role within the gym or whatever gym it is that he's training at. But this guy is a really good coach. And I know it's like a little bit of a meme about like Michael Chandler's motivational speeches and just how he seems like a guy that's always kind of like motivational and all that, but he is, and it really does translate well to a good coaching style. And I think that Michael Chandler makes a fantastic coach, and I don't think that there's actually a better example of that than in this fight of Cody Gibson versus Mando Gutierrez. Not only just because prior to the fight it seemed like Michael Chandler was really giving Cody Gibson that confidence, really believing in Cody Gibson. It was more after the fight as well. Like the way that he dealt with Cody Gibson after the fight, like you could see like Michael Chandler had his arm around Cody Gibson. He was like really talking to him, and they're kind of having like a little bit of a moment of like him praising Cody Gibson, and it was just like really like it seemed obvious to me that Michael Chandler's formed a good bond with his team, and Cody Gibson himself was saying that he really feels like a team with Michael Chandler as the coach and all this sort of thing. And yeah, dude, it's just so different to kind of Conor McGregor's style, where it's kind of like it's Conor McGregor, right? But he's not really like connecting with his fighters like Chandler is, because as I said earlier in the video, this is everything to Michael Chandler. This is like, aside from like getting the title shot against Charles Oliveira and getting the massive fights and getting signed to the UFC from Bellator, and maybe even like his Bellator title fights, this is probably like one of the biggest opportunities of Michael Chandler's career. Like, not only is he potentially going to fight Conor McGregor, which he probably will, he's going to coach in the Ultimate Fighter against Conor McGregor. Like, this is a big opportunity for Michael Chandler, especially because as much as a lot of people do like Chandler and this, Conor McGregor's the A side on the show. Conor McGregor, he's the one bringing the names, you know what I mean? And Chandler's just there. But I feel like a lot of people might, like, people that don't know Chandler, but they know McGregor, that are watching the show, they might really start to recognize how good Chandler is at a coach, and just like he just seems like a really nice guy. Like he really does seem like a really nice guy. But yeah, what other thing I want to bring up? I think the amount of ads in the show really does ruin the viewing experience. Now, you got to consider it from me. I don't watch TV like at all. Like I do have ESPN. I've got like the equivalent to ESPN. I've got a service that gives me ESPN, whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like a TV service in New Zealand that I have ESPN, and that's how I watch the show. Obviously, I watch it on ESPN. But, like, the thing is, I don't watch TV, like, at all. Like, is it normal for this many ads to be played during a show? Like, there are so many ads. Like, they'll go for, like, 2 or 3 minutes and play an ad. Like half the show is ads. It's insane. There's so many ads during the show. I genuinely don't know how normal that is for a show, but there's so many ads. Like there were so many ads. I cooked my lunch while I was watching the show. Like I would go off, I'd cook something up, I'd put it in the oven. I was making a pizza during the ad. I'll put it in the oven. I'll come back. There'll be an ad play. I'll go and check on the pizza. Oh, it's not even cooked yet. Just so many ads, man. It's crazy. That does ruin the show. But, dude, it's just becoming pretty obvious to me, man, that, like, Michael Chandler is a really, really good coach. I'm looking forward to the next fight. Let's talk about that. It's going to be a long video. I do apologize for the length of the video. And another thing as well, I forgot to bring up, man, thank you guys so much. Apparently, I actually haven't checked myself, but apparently I've hit 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Just drop my phone. Like, I'm a pretty professional YouTuber. Nah, I'm just kidding. Apparently I hit 4,000 subscribers as well, so I really appreciate that. Yeah, I did. Thank you guys so much for 4,000 subscribers. Really do appreciate all that support. Now let's get into episode 2. Let's talk about the fight. Austin Hubbard versus Aaron McKenzie. As much as I want Conor McGregor to get a win, I'm gonna pick Austin Hubbard in this matchup. I think that Austin Hubbard has a pretty good chance of winning the whole thing. I think the finals at lightweight very well could be Austin Hubbard versus Roosevelt Roberts. It just depends. How good is Lee Hammond? You know what I mean? How good is Lee Hammond? I don't see Kurt Holloway potentially winning the whole thing. You know, he's fought in a long time. He's also an older guy. I don't see Jason Knight maybe going all that way. This Landon Canone's guy looks like he's going to lose. But maybe he wins, because him and Roosevelt Roberts have beef. So, we saw in like a extract at the end of the first episode that Roosevelt Roberts was yelling at someone, telling them that he's going to fight him. So maybe Canones wins his fight against whoever. So anyway, that's so off track. I would stop recording and re-record, but I've got to make this my like genuine first video reaction. So Austin Hubbard 15-6 versus Cody Gibson. I do believe that Cody Gibson is no versus Aaron McKenzie. I do think that Aaron McKenzie probably loses this fight. I don't know why they decided to go with a 34-year-old in like the prospect category. I do know I am familiar with Aaron McKenzie, and the reason why I am so familiar with Aaron McKenzie is because I actually predicted him to lose against Lucas Clay. And although it is a split decision, I do think that he won that fight. I do think he did beat Lucas Clay. It was pretty close, but it was kind of clear that Aaron McKenzie probably did deserve the decision in that matchup. But it's just weird, like, why is a 34-year-old your prospect? You know, because if he wins, he's probably going to retire in 2 or 3 years anyway. I say this all the time. He beat Joe Giannetti. That's a really good win. Joe Giannetti, former UFC, former Ultimate Fighter. He could have been on the show on the veteran side for sure. He's probably going to be in the UFC again if he keeps up his winning streak. But I do think Austin Hubbard beats him. You know, Austin Hubbard debatably was like cut from the UFC maybe a little bit too early. You know what? He didn't have that bad of a UFC run. He lost, he won, he lost, he won, he lost, he won, and then he lost again to Vince Pichel. And then he was cut. Like, do you not think that was maybe a little bit too premature? It's not like he lost 2 fights in a row. It's not like he lost 3 fights in a row. It's not like he was missing weight every time. Yeah, it was just like, you know, maybe just they just weren't impressed with his decision wins. But I do think Austin Hubbard wins this fight. He probably keeps it on the feet because Aaron McKenzie is a wrestler and a grappler. And even then, I think Austin Hubbard could take it to the ground if he wants to. I do think Austin Hubbard wins this fight. It probably would be our first decision, so I feel like there might be a lot less filler and a lot less ads potentially during the episode when this fight goes on. But yeah, I do think that it's a little bit interesting that Austin Hubbard was cut from the UFC when he was, because it's not like he had a bad UFC run. Like 3 wins to 4 losses in the UFC, especially alternating, isn't that bad of a UFC record. You know what I mean? Like there's still fighters in the UFC that are like 1-5, like Kyle Nelson. Like, you know, maybe a little bit premature of a cut, but I think Austin Hubbard wins this fight. I think it's gonna be interesting. Now let's talk about the fights and all that sort of thing. Let's talk about the fighters now, just at the end. I do believe now watching, I think apparently McGregor won the show. He said that he won the show on Twitter, and then he posted something about on Twitter that he won the show. So who is Conor McGregor's best chances of winning the show? It has to be maybe Landon Canones wins his fight against whoever it is that he's fighting, and then maybe beats Roosevelt Roberts, you know, because I think that they probably would capitalize on that matchup, Canones versus Roberts. They don't like each other. So that's interesting. That maybe Canones wins the whole thing and goes to the finals. Or maybe who else? Like at bantamweight, like Hunter Rozier is a really good fighter. Rico DeScalio is 36, I think, as a prospect. Katona's a really good fighter, and Valiev. Like, Katona and Valiev are gonna win the prospect of bantamweight. This is just like, Mando Gutierrez was Conor McGregor's best chance, in my opinion, of winning bantamweight, and he just lost. Unless Trevor Wells pulls something out crazy and beats Timo Valiev, I just don't see it. I think, dude, surely Chandler wins on TUF. Like, come on, man. Like, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next one. That was a quick exit, but I don't want the video to be too long. But, yeah, I'm just looking at the rankings. Like, how does Conor win? Lee Hammond must be really good. Lee Hammond must be really good because, yeah, I feel like maybe Lee Hammond is his best chance of winning 155, unless this Landon Canones guy is better than I think he is. And it really comes down to Lee Hammond and Canones, I mean, obviously, for lightweight now. And then at bantamweight, maybe Trevor Wells does something insane and KOs Valiev. Like, it's kind of all I see. I don't see Brad Katona or Valiev losing to any of these prospects, you know? So it's going to be interesting to see. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next one.